safe our Indian skies. Now, historically, we've always seen that when it comes to flying, the measures which essentially are being followed are stringent, very, very stringent. Aviation is one of the safest mode of transportation based on historical data. But of late, things are looking in doldrums. I'm not scaring here anybody, but if I put data on table, how Indigo, one of the flights, Sharjah flight to Indigo, had to do an emergency landing in Karachi. There are other mechanical issues which other airlines are reporting. Why is that the quality checks are getting compromised? Is it largely because airlines are cutting corners, because they've suffered a lot because of COVID, and now they continue to suffer because of what is happening on the crude front? But if that is the case, what about accountability? Why are the check and balances and basic quality standards getting compromised? Let's take that conversation forward. Is it all about airlines trying to squeeze too much? Are they trying to make the impossible look easy? What was like a routine manpower requirement that is getting compromised, and the answer given here is COVID and productivity gains. Mark, the question was for you.
Hi, Nikunj, Nayantara, and Aisha. Morning. Thanks for having me today. The issue here is more got to do with financial stability and sustainability as part of your operations. Now, pre-COVID, to where we are today, airline operating costs have gone up by 40%. The receding dollar then was 69, 68, now it's 80. The cost of oil was about 75 on the barrel, today it's 150 plus. Cost of lending, borrowing from banks, vis-a-vis airlines is ridiculously expensive today if you would approach the market. Private equity is staying away. The major issue is that the losses accumulated for the last 4 years, you can't brush that under the carpet, Nikunj. That is going to remain in your books. And now when you've got this upsurge, you are going to have what would be commonly known as growing pains and dealing with that financial loss that you're trying to make up for it. Now, regulations in India from the DGCA are not something that is invented by India. These are global EASA regulations. These are based on ICAO mandates. So it's a one-size-fits-all for the whole world. Now, when it comes over to India, the DGCA adds on more vigilance, more surveillance onto your airline operating model. So what you're going to have is, absolutely rigid and stringent regulations that are enforced, but it's how and at what level is the airline going to follow it. They are allowances. You allow deferred defects to some extent and degree, which means that you can take off with a part of an aircraft not working, provided that you fix it in 10 flights or 20 hours, but you're going to have to fix it in 10 flights or 20 hours. The point boils down here to is the discipline an airline has with an airline, and it all starts from the top, Nikunj. It's from the leadership. He takes a call on it. It's not that our airlines are unsafe. If you look at the total number of flights, so an Indigo would have, for example, about 1,800 flights a day to the ratio of incidents, whereas a SpiceJet would have maybe about 700 or 600 flights to the ratio of incidents. So that tells you the broad framework, and then you start adding data for Air India or Vistara. So you've got a sample size of exceedances to the total number of flights. So we're not that bad from a bigger perspective, but the issue here is more of the small ones that get you. And it's also very relevant that airline financial health needs to be checked. And that's not the DGCA. The DGCA is a regulator. The DGCA is an airworthiness compliance regulator. The Ministry of Civil Aviation needs to work with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. We're going to have financial stat audits of airlines to establish how sustainable are they. And there's a reason if they cut corners with buying parts or spares, there's a valid reason as to why that happens. And that's something which has to be given. Now, you can't even blame the government, Nikunj. In all honesty, in all fairness, ECGLS was given last year to airlines to help them overcome financial stress. So where is the ECGLS money? That's taxpayer money. That's got to go back to the government at some point, right?
Right. But Martin, I mean, what is the solution to this? You know, you've highlighted in depth all the parameters and the pressures that the airlines are facing. And, you know, sure enough, I think the onus of this rests on the airlines, and there can't be any blame game to this. The regulator definitely doesn't have any role to play here, because these are lapses, and these are real lapses which are now coming to the fore. What can be done?
Strong governance for airlines. Absolutely, you know, the operating model, what airlines were told to work and function within as part of the overall framework, whether it's the European Aviation Safety Agency, which, by the way, is ratified in India, ICAO, DGCA, are they actually following those to the T? Because if you follow those to the T, you're going to have to put in capital, resource, and knowledge. Three important parameters to making an airline functionality work. Eventually, an airline is just a system. The Indian Railways is a transportation system, and so is air transport. And it doesn't question the fact that an aircraft is unsafe. I mean, if you lost an engine and a wing, you can still make a safe landing. But how many, you know, a wing and a prayer situations are we going to see? You know, I mean, our aviation sector is the fastest growing in the world. We're also amongst the largest at the moment. And from compliance, there's also got to be a softer oversight to see exactly where the problem is. You know, every part in aviation is imported. Even a nut comes out of the US or Europe. That's $80 to the rupee from what was 69. Operating costs, import, freight, GST, tax. Now you started, and now you've added a tax layer on jet fuel. All of this is going to hit you somewhere, right? And if collectively, you know, you can soften the blow, look at operating management systems, relook at financial health, work around an airline. If airline has to cut back on the fleet deployment, manage it in somehow so that you're providing a safe, reliable service to the consumer.
Correct. So your point being that it is up to the airline, which is a system of its own.